everybody. Welcome to City Girls Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast. And we're really excited. We're getting on our dance moves and we're talking about girls just want to have fun. It's going to be super fun. I'm film critic Grace Wagner and Jax is here.
Back at it. I'm
I,
so
li-
excited.
I like to see that you have a wild 80s inspired sweater on.
I had to. It felt very girls just want to have fun for
Yes.
me. And I love your red lip.
That's right. Yeah, so we're talking about girls just want to have fun. This is from 1985, and I don't know what it is about the 80s, but parents just didn't like dancing. It was just bad news when you're
Gymnastics good, dancing bad.
right. Because you think about it, we had if you think about
Hairspray.
it, if you think about it, in the 80s we had girls just want to have fun, Hairspray, we had Dirty Dancing and Footloose, all right around that mid to late 80s. Everybody didn't want their kids dancing.
Just
Wild
let
and
us
crazy.
dance. Let us dance.
And I don't know what happened in the 90s, but parents gave up on that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just let it. It's just so crazy how they equate sexual activity with dancing. Like I
Right.
get it. Sure. Like that
Mhm.
can happen, but just dance.
Yeah. And of course, we wanted to talk about girls just want to have fun because this was a leading role for Sarah Jessica Parker. So it was very exciting for her.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this one because I didn't have, for Footloose, I had really high expectations. And this I didn't really know much about. So I didn't know what to even think going into it.
Mm-hmm. So this is you had not seen it before. This is your first
I have
time
not.
watch.
This is my first time. Yeah.
Nice. This is what I call a sleepover movie. This was the kind of
Oh,
movie that I would watch with my girlfriends as sleepover. And I would add a lot of them involved some kind of illicit dance.
yes.
Popular. Or the other another variation on that was the cutting edge, which would be like illicit ice skating. Um, and so
I love
yeah.
that.
But the thing that's nice about this one, this is, I don't even know how long this episode will be because it's a pretty light movie. There's not a
Yeah.
ton going on here. But compared to those other ones that I mentioned, it's a good one for a sleepover because it is light. Like all those other ones have like some pretty heavy stuff. I mean, we talked about it with Footloose. Like it's pretty heavy at times.
Yeah. Like I think with Hairspray, there's a lot of the racial stuff going
Yeah.
on,
Yep.
which is, like
Yeah.
the heavier. Footloose, I had anxiety the entire time I was watching it.
Yeah.
Um, wait, what was the other one?
And dirty
Dirty Dancing. Oh
dancing.
my
Yeah, I
gosh,
mean,
the
it's
the
abortion
the
and heavy,
abortion.
heavy.
Yeah, it's they're all the other three are heavy, and this was just a light romp
Yeah.
that I enjoyed.
Yeah. It's really fun.
Sleepover movie. That's the perfect way to describe it, Rachel.
Yeah. Yes. And I think of other sleepover movies, like Can't Buy Me Love, that would be one.
Mhm.
Some Kind of Wonderful. Um, I mean, something like Dirty Dancing would have been like a snake. My mom would never have allowed. I mean, even just the title, no way.
Yeah.
But I know I did. Like Clueless, I loved, but that would be later, so that would be kind of post sleepover because
Yeah, yeah,
that was when I was
later.
a freshman in high school when that came out. And so like I'm thinking like sort of late 80s, early 90s, kind of terrible, but
Yes.
romantic, kind of
But
these
so
sort of movies.
good. Yes.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Probably I think a Joe versus the volcano would have gotten in there.
Is that Tom Hanks?
Yes. Yeah, it was
Yes.
so it was Meg and Tom's first time working together.
I haven't seen
And
that in
it's
forever.
wild. It's really weird, but it's fun.
I have to revisit.
Because like you wouldn't want like Sleepless in Seattle to be a sleepover movie because
No,
it's too sad
too sad.
dealing with death and stuff. No, you want like you want movies, even if they have the heavier stuff, like enough of the like fun stuff.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah.
have a little bit of the lightness. I remember Now
Yeah.
and Then was a big sleepover movie for us. But
Mm-hmm.
then it gets a little sad too. It's like
It
it
does.
tugs at the like the nostalgia. Like
That's true.
honestly, I really think you hit the nail on the head when you said girls just want to have fun because I'm I had a good time all throughout and I got a little mad at the villain and
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
it didn't feel too heavy or serious in any way. Like it's
Hmm.
exactly what I needed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so Girls Just Want to Have Fun. It's Janie is new in town and soon meets Lynn, who shares her passion for dancing in general and dance TV in particular. I just thought of another one, probably Sister Act. That would have been one. Another
So
one. Doesn't really
good.
have the romance side of it,
Doesn't
but
have the romance. And I grew up going to Catholic school, so like we've been all over that. But I wasn't
yeah.
allowed to go to sleepovers until I was way older. My mom was really
Oh,
strict.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say what because you're younger than me.
Yeah.
What were your sleepover? Probably some of the maybe you're not that much younger than me,
No,
but
I'm not that much
a
younger.
lot of the DComs became kind of sleepover movies. You
Exactly.
want
Yeah.
something that's like for like 8 to 13.
Mm-hmm.
That's peak
Mm-hmm.
sleepover years.
Peak sleepover
Babysitter's
years. Yeah.
Club, that was one.
Oh, I was gonna say Babysitter's Club.
Babysitter's Club,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. That was
that
a
was
great
that
one.
was good.
I saw in
High School Musical would have
oh
been
high school.
if
Yeah.
I was that age for
Yeah.
sure.
You and I both are too old for that.
Yeah, too old, way too old for
Yeah.
that.
We
But
miss that.
yeah, but that would have been like perfect for sure.
Absolutely.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Newsies, that was one.
Ah, news. Christian
Newsies.
Bale is
Christian
so
Bale.
hot.
Yes. Uh the movie that he's like embarrassed by, but I love. I don't care.
And I'm like, no need to be embarrassed, baby.
Yes. So we have Sarah Jessica Parker playing Janie, and then we have Helen Hunt playing Lynn. And this was directed by Alan Metter and writer Amy Spies. And some of the interesting things about this movie is that Cyndi Lauper didn't allow her version of the song to be used in the movie. That says the filmmakers were not allowed to use the changes the Lauper made to the song, including the addition of several lyrics. It says Lauper said she did not want to appear in the film and refused to allow her version to be used. So that's kind of interesting. I'm sure there's a backstory behind that, but yeah, it is a
Yeah,
different version.
it seems weird that she wouldn't allow it. And the version in this was great. Like,
Yeah.
of course, Cyndi Lauper has the version, but yeah, I thought
Mhm.
that this worked really well, this version.
Yeah, it says there was the company New World, and the company bought the rights to the original song, 1970 song, and the title from songwriter Robert Hazard's publishing company. But Lauper said she did not want to appear in the film and refused to allow her version to be used. The filmmakers were not allowed to use the changes the Lauper made to the song, and so yeah, I guess Sarah Jessica Parker was announced first. She was on a show at the time called Square Pegs, which I have never seen.
Me either.
That might be a fun one to do for
That
City
would be
Girls
cool.
Pod someday. It was
Yeah.
from 82 to 83. Square pegs. It almost looks like sort of greasish. Eclectic group of 8 freshmen on their first day at Waimea High School. Series was much acclaimed by critics at the time for its realistic look at teenage life, reflecting a sensibility somewhat similar to John Hughes' teen comedies of later years.
Oh.
So she was the lead. Patty Green is clever and seemingly well-adjusted, but feels awkward and like a social misfit. I wonder if I'm looking, seeing if you can watch it anywhere online.
Yeah. That would be a cool one for us to cover.
Yeah.
So funny.
Here we go. Let's see here. Watch show. Yeah, you can watch it on Amazon.
Yeah, I think that this is coming down the pipeline
Square
for us.
pegs. Yeah.
How many
All
episodes?
right, we can
You
do
said
it.
1 season or 2 seasons?
Let's see here. Season 1 is on Amazon. Just 1 season. But yeah, we should definitely cover this.
Yeah, we should definitely.
This looks good.
Yeah, I'm very curious.
Huh, cool. Anyway, tangent. So she, I guess, had made a name for herself with that show, and she was, also on Footloose the year before, and so she was pegged to be in this, and I think that she's cute. She's fun in this. Would you agree?
Yes. And I think the chemistry between her and I think his name is Lee in real life.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Janie and Jeff.
Yes. Rachel, I think I was like, I don't usually get very into when like the leading men. It's just not for me unless they're like kind of nerdy. I was like, this guy is so hot.
He was really
And their chemistry, very like incredibly. We'll get to a part that I didn't think worked at all, but I just thought that the way they looked at each other, the way they interacted, I mean, his smile, eyes, is everything. He was so good.
He was really, really good. And I think the also was believable between the friendship. And I think that Helen Hunt was the true real standout of the movie, in my opinion.
Hilarious. That quirky. Really, like, you can see why they went on to have incredible careers. Like, she absolutely killed it. And like, it's the best friend role that is actually like the best role.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess they announced a remake of this movie, which I'm like, how do you remake this movie? What? Like, there's nothing to remake. Like, it has so little plot. Like, I don't know.
Who would be in the remake of this?
I
wonder.
Like, what do you? I mean, I don't know who's like up and coming teen now.
Yeah.
I mean, whoever's on like. I mean, you look at this recent Mean Girls or whatever,
right?
Remake, which was also pointless. But yeah, I guess let's see here, that last year, April 2023, announced that a remake of the film would be directed by Elizabeth Banks and written by Marja Lewis Ryan. And that does not give me much confidence because Elizabeth Banks movies have been absolutely terrible. Her Pitch Perfect movie was really bad, and I didn't like Cocaine Bear, and I don't know, she's not doing it for me as a director. So
yeah.
Also, they announced last November, so just barely, that a jukebox musical based on this movie is in production for Broadway. The musical is a collaboration between two different companies with a book written by Lauren Marcus and M. Dixon. So we might see it on Broadway.
I think that could be fun. Well, we have to go together, obviously.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that could be fun.
It depends on what the jukebox music is, because there's only really the one song, in here.
Yeah.
And I think there's already been a Cyndi Lauper musical.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
is.
So I don't think it would be Cyndi Lauper songs.
Yeah.
But it's just let's see here.
Yeah, you're right. That is curious.
Another one I thought of, another sleepover movie would be Valley Girl. totally. Valley Girl.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And there was a remake of that, which I actually didn't think was that bad. It got a
I didn't
lot
see the
of,
remake.
it was, I have to revisit it because it was it was a movie I watched at a drive-in during the pandemic. And like all those movies had like, a pandemic halo a little bit around them. As much as I tried to be objective, like just the fact I was at the movie, watching a
Oh,
movie.
girl.
But I
Yes.
liked it, and they added music, which I thought was fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
I love that. The pandemic halo.
Yes.
Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by W Rated, the podcast where we willingly watch the world's worst rated movies. Join me, Daisy.
And me, Claire, as we break down the IMDb Bottom 100, choosing a different film from the list every episode.
We take a deep dive into the plot, production, release, and reviews, usually with a special guest, to uncover if these films are truly as bad as everyone says they are.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, and anywhere else you find your podcasts.
True.
We get it.
But basically, like the plot for this movie is you have Janie, the new girl in town, and she's an army brat. She's moved around a lot. But now she's moved to Chicago, and this is her big chance to be on dance TV. Very exciting.
So exciting.
Yeah.
She's got the gymnastic skills. Like, I would love to see her and Kevin Bacon do like a gymnastics off.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be good. And then there's a couple other characters. You have Lynn, again played by Helen Hunt, and she's really fun. She's the rebellious one, and she also has the craziest clothes, particularly her hair.
Oh my gosh, her hair is amazing.
Yes. What do you think of that? When she has the grasshopper on her hat.
Oh my gosh, I was living for
Iconic.
it. Yes, it is iconic.
If they didn't have that in the musical, then what are you doing? Why are you wasting your time?
Come on, it's canon. You have to.
Canon. And so then, yeah, there's Jeff, who's her love interest, and he was very dreamy. He reminded me a lot of Joey Lawrence in like Blossom, like that.
That is who he
Face.
reminds me of. You're
Yeah.
right.
He looked a lot like
Eyes, that hair.
Yeah, he had that he was very dreamy, no question. He looked way, I don't know how old he was, but he looked way too old. But other than that, he was
the
great.
chest hair felt
Yeah.
aggressive.
Yeah. And then we have Drew, who's like the nerdy friend, Jonathan Silverman. And he kind of has like a little flirtation with Shannon Doherty's character, Maggie.
Oh my gosh, Shannon Doherty was so good.
She was really cute. And she's frustrated because she's not a woman yet. Because I think she said she was 12. She hasn't gotten her period yet. And but she has this crush on Drew. And but she's just really frustrated. But Drew is definitely the part of the movie that doesn't hold up the most.
Yeah.
And a lot of that times that's the case. Like in 16 Candles, the nerds are terrible in that one. Or like just because you're a nerd doesn't mean you can like also be a bully and be horrible. And I mean, he's not that bad in this, but he's just kind of annoying and kind of a little bit creep.
Yeah, I think there was something about, like, if you think about the nerds, like Steve Urkel and Family Matters or Screech and Saved by the
that's a
Bell,
good comparison.
they like got a pass for like kind of harassing women, but like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, but no, we didn't think of it like that. Like, but I get it. I get it.
Yeah. So then we have Natalie, who is the spoiled rich girl. And she doesn't want she wants to be with Jeff, and so she's super jealous of his interest in Janie, and then she also wants to get the part, this part in Dance TV that opens, and so she tries to get her dad to rig it. And then like her dad ends up basically telling Janie that if she doesn't if she competes, then he's going to fire her dad. The dad owns this guy ends up owning the factory that Janie's dad works at.
Yeah, it's so awful. Like this character, obviously she's nasty, but boy does she look hot when she has like the white boots with like the white like cool jacket and then no pants, just a leotard.
Yeah.
I was like, I love that you look so good in that. Obviously, like it's not an outfit I'll be rocking, but she looks good.
I do appreciate that they did have like quite a bit of dancing in the movie, and when they have the dance off on stage, like it's pretty good, like pretty good dancing.
Definitely.
Because I think that's the thing you get with Sarah Jessica Parker is that they really should have utilized that a little bit in Sex and the City. I don't think they ever had her dance like at all.
I don't think they did.
Like,
yeah,
even
like
just
you said,
like regular dancing.
No, which is kind of funny that they wouldn't have utilized it in some way.
Yeah, it's so funny, especially when she was dating a little ballet dancer.
Yes, exactly. Why?
Yeah.
Why? How did it
On the
not get
show.
incorporated then? Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. So yeah, there's like these back and forths of them like lying to their parents and sneaking out. And she's got, of course, like the perfect tree outside her room to sneak out. And then she makes like excuses to her dad, and he's a pretty, like, in the world of these movies. Do you think of like the Dad and Say Anything or Some Kind of Wonderful, or like this dad? Yeah, he's like a little bit strict, but like, or even if you want to go really extreme, like Dead Poet Society, or it's like these parents, they're so mad because their kid's in a play, like heaven forbid.
We just want to dance and do theater, people. Like, come on.
Unbelievable. So, but he's like a little strict, but like not abusive or violent or anything like that. Like sometimes you see
that dog, Rachel. Like,
oh yeah, the dog.
What is going on? I was like, I understand having a guard dog that would be mean to intruders, but is that not their pet dog? And why is it being mean to her? I was like, this makes not a lick sense.
Yeah, you're right there. That's true. Although I had to laugh when they're like, the 80s version of the cool hip like hangout is called the club, and it's called the court, and it's got all these basketball hoops.
So good.
They're like dancing and throwing a hoop.
It's just what we do.
I thought that was really funny.
It was great.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hearty, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Worst part for Drew was when he tries to turn Tokyo with that girl. It's like, and you have to watch the movie to get further elaboration on what I mean by that. But it was that was definitely his creepiest moment. You're like, you're not cool.
I almost couldn't believe what I was watching. I was like, huh?
Yeah. Bad. Although I did relate to him selling, trying to sell merch at the Dance TV, because my brother, that would have totally been my brother as far as that part of it was the merch, because my brother was always coming up with a new little business, what he could do. And classic is he went up snow hiking or whatever with
Yeah.
the scouts, and he brought snow cone flavoring so that he can sell snow cones.
That is genius.
Yeah, and when he saw that the band was selling candy bars, he was like, I could do that. And he went to Costco and he's like,
He's like, for myself.
yeah,
I
for
got it.
himself. Yeah.
That is an entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah,
I love it.
He did. And so, and I remember one time his friend was like, hey, I like that's a cool hat you have on. And he's like, you want to buy it for me? And my mom had to be like, you can't sell your clothes. Like, we have invested in his clothes. Don't sell your clothes.
It's like, is it Lily in and just like that when she's selling her clothes? And it's like, you didn't buy those clothes, baby doll.
Right.
I love that.
So, and that I could picture my brother doing something like that, selling the merch at the
merch, baby.
Yeah. And yeah, and the dog was strange. I was like, what? Because they finally have their first kiss, and then the dog goes crazy and stops them.
Oh my gosh. That was, again, like, I just felt the electricity, and I loved how she was so nerdy. She's like, a boyfriend, and she's like, I mean, not that you're my boyfriend. And I was just like, oh, you're darling. You are darling.
Yeah. And so then Natalie's dad almost crashes into Jeff. And that's when he gives him the threat of, I will fire your dad if Natalie doesn't win the contest.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then, so then he gets like really crotchety and he's like, not everybody needs to warm up like you do.
Oh my gosh, Rachel.
Like,
so
yeah,
this was the part that I was like, this acting is so bad for both of them. I was just, the whole thing, when they're getting along and they're flirting and they're dancing.
Yeah.
Adorable, acting off the charts. Like, I'm loving every minute. And then this scene, I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are so cringe. This acting is so bad.
It's really bad.
It's just so bad.
Everything's rigged.
Yeah. And she's like, well, it's just the whole thing. I was like, you guys have got to stop. But luckily that only lasted like 90 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we have the these contests are for people. Let's see. Okay. So then Jeff says to his dad, these contests are for people that belong as number one. And then he finally tells his dad about the threat. And to his dad's credit, his dad's like, you can win it and you need to do it. And so he doesn't allow him to be manipulated, which was like, go Jeff's dad.
I love Jeff's dad.
Yeah.
Yes. I was like, he's a blue collar, hardworking guy, but he believes in his son. And then when he's watching him on TV at the bar, I was just so touched. I loved his character.
Yeah. Yes. And so then we also see like epic big hair from Helen Hunt. Like, it was like, how did they even get it that high? Like, it was so big.
So good.
It was so funny. And then the lead dancer at Dance TV quits. So that's part of the reason why they have the open spot. And they're trying to get there, and they end up climbing on top of all the cars.
That was awesome.
To get out. Yeah. I also thought it was amazing how Sarah Jessica Parker's overalls were like one pull off. She was just like, boom.
I was like, I love overalls, and I'm not able to remove them that quickly.
I'm like, way to go, costume designers. You did a good job.
They knew what they were doing.
Yeah. But so then they're dancing, and Janie's parents see her on TV, and her dad's like, oh, and so he races off to stop her from dancing. And I'm not sure exactly what they opposed about the dancing, because it wasn't really I don't know. They weren't as like overtly against the sexiness as like for Footloose or whatever. Her parents just like wanted her to focus on school or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. And it was kind of funny because Janie was such a good kid.
Yeah.
Like, yes, she was sneaking out, but like she was pretty sweet and innocent. She just wanted to dance and like make out with her boyfriend.
Right. Who wouldn't?
We can let her do that. We can let her do that.
And so then it ends up that Natalie and Janie and their partners end up tying. And so there's a dance off. You got to have a dance off.
So good. That's when you pull out
And-
the back handsprings.
Yes. So they end their Jamie and Jeff end their routine with a tumbling sequence. Yeah.
And boy, did they ever. Boy, howdy.
It was
They
huge.
tumbled in
Epic.
unison. It was epic. Oh, goodness gracious. But it was great. It was great.
And of course they win. And the dad's there and he's like clapping and
That was so sweet when he became a fan then of hers.
Yeah.
And Natalie's dad, oh my gosh, what did he say to her? Did he tell her?
He tells her to shut up.
I was like, oh,
because she's like, Dad, it's not fair or whatever.
She's blaming
like,
her partner. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's a little harsh from the dad.
Yes.
He was a brat. She was a brat.
Yeah. And then I didn't quite understand why Helen Hunt, all of a sudden, her character comes in with this horse.
So what I thought it was is that the woman who quit and like left was Miss something, like kind of one of the hosts, and Helen Hunt came on in her place. I think that's what it was, but I'm not 100% positive.
I was like, why is there this horse? Like, what's going on? And
they expected that we would know that, but I feel like it's this thing of like, I guess that's what she comes out on. Like I'm actually not sure.
Her hair was like absolutely huge.
So fantastic.
Huge, epic. And so yeah. That's the movie.
That's the ball game, kids. It's a sleepover movie, like Rachel said.
It is a sleepover movie. It's got teens wanting to dance and friends and you have the snobby girl getting taken down and you've got the hunky guys. I mean, come on. What more do you want?
Oh my goodness. We don't have Lee didn't really do a ton of acting after this and he kind of left the public eye and I just want to know how he's doing. Lee, if you're listening to this.
Yes. If you're listening, Lee Montgomery, come on the podcast.
Hey, Lee.
That would be a blast.
Oh my gosh. I wouldn't even know what to do with myself.
Evidently, he was in a cult classic horror called Burnt Offerings. So I guess I was reading that you sometimes see him at like horror conventions and things like that.
Sign me up.
It should be in the rom-com conventions.
Yes, he should. Please.
He should. Yes. So that's Girls Just Want to Have Fun. If I was going to rank, ooh, that's tough. If I'm ranking, maybe I'll have to do it with Terry. We'll rank the cheesy sleepover movies. But if I say, what would I say? I do think I would probably put this one fourth. But it's still, I really enjoy it. And then probably I would say in order, I would probably have Dirty Dancing as 1, Hairspray is 2, Footloose is 3, or maybe this is 3 and Footloose is 4. But they're all 4 real solid.
I definitely would prefer to watch this.
Yes.
Now, listen, I know Dirty Dancing's a better movie. I know Footloose is a better movie. I'd prefer to watch this or Hairspray over the other two. Like
it's true.
The abortion scene is really dark in that one. And then everything. I was literally stressed the whole time watching Footloose. Yeah. So for me, it's like with my anxiety levels, it's got to be Hairspray or this.
Yeah. Like if you were coming over and we were having a sleepover, that's definitely the one I would pick.
Yes. That's why I feel like you and I would be like, yeah, this will be fun. We'll eat some good food. We'll watch a movie. We don't have to stress ourselves out.
Yes. And everybody can watch it on Tubi. So you should definitely check it out. Well, let us know what you think of Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Is it one you remember fondly? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And you can follow at City Girls Pod on Twitter and then also Hallmarkies Pod. And Jax, where can people find you?
Jacqueline Collier on Instagram.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. And like I said, check out Hallmarkies Pod and City Girls Pod. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. It really would help us out right now. They just had this update to the iPods and iPhones that messed up everybody's podcast numbers and subscribers.
I didn't know that.
So yeah, it's a big problem. And so everyone across the board's numbers are really low this month. And so it would help us out a ton if we could get some more reviews. So if you haven't reviewed the podcast on iTunes, some 5-star reviews, it would help us out a lot. And then also, if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. And we also have our Patreon group, which is a ton of fun. And we have the merch store. You can get City Girls Pod merch. So check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. And go and have fun. I'll talk to you later. Bye.